You're listening to the micro version of the Savage Lovecast. www.savagelovecast.com.
If you're stuck in a relationship quandary, or if you're looking for sexual harmony, well, there's nothing you can't ask on the Savage Lovecast.
So it was Pride this weekend in Seattle and in New York and in a lot, if not most other places. Some places have their Pride parades and celebrations earlier in June than others, but the big one, big Pride parades, the big commemoration is this weekend, roughly the weekend of the 25th, 26th, around there, every year. Last year, something we have to celebrate this year, Obergefell, the ruling legalizing same-sex marriage in all 50 states, came down right before Pride. We're celebrating the one-year anniversary of that. And this weekend, we got to celebrate, thanks to Barack Obama and the White House and his administration, the designation of the first National Park Service unit dedicated to telling the story of LGBT Americans. Barack Obama, his administration, designated the Stonewall Inn, site of the Stonewall riots in 1969, that kicked the already out there, already happening movement for rights for homosexuals into high gear, really kicked off the modern LGBT civil rights movement, designated the Stonewall Inn, site of those riots, as a national landmark. It will be preserved. There will be exhibitions. It will be forever protected. The new Stonewall National Monument, I'm reading from the White House press release, will permanently protect Christopher Park, a historic community park at the intersection of Christopher Street, West 4th Street, and Grove Street, directly across the street from the Stonewall Inn. And the monument's boundaries encompasses approximately 7.7 acres of land, including the Stonewall Inn, Christopher Park, the surrounding streets and sidewalks that were the site of the 1969 Stonewall uprisings. So we had that to celebrate this weekend as well. A couple of things I want to address about Pride. You know, a large group of queer people can't get together anywhere and do anything without some queer people finding fault with that thing that some of those queer people are doing. One of the complaints you tend to hear in the wake of the Pride Parade is minor, but I'd like to quickly address it. You have people complaining about the mess because we're not really showing our pride. Here's a picture of what the streets look like immediately after Pride. Look at all the litter and glitter and abandoned rainbow feather boas and beads and unwrapped condoms that were thrown to the crowd and left on the ground. And to those hand-wringers out there who are always offended by the mess Pride leaves behind or worried about how that mess makes us look as a community, you know, wherever large groups of people gather, the amount of garbage that large group produces generally exceeds the space dedicated to the safe and responsible collection of waste. That's why cities generally, and often with fees and revenues generated from Pride parades themselves, send out cleanup crews in the wake of the Pride parade to clean up the extra mess. So, calm the fuck down about the mess. Think of the mess that you're going to see, all those flyers, condom packets, abandoned, lost, rainbow feather boas, not as mess, and the people who left them behind not as slobs, but as job creators. The other thing I wanted to address quickly before we get to this week's calls was a meme that was going around. People, of course, in the wake of Orlando and the massacre at the Pulse nightclub were just gutted and energized and moved, and it was a very serious moment. And this meme, I think, kind of rose out of that kind of angst and feeling. But anyway, it's two pictures, one on top of each other. The top picture is of some people marching, carrying a banner that says, "Fight Back, Smash Gay Oppression." Somebody carrying a Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gay banner. Everyone in skirts and suits and ties. It's a really old picture. It looks like it's about 40 years old, probably from the beginning of the modern LGBT civil rights movement. And that picture is labeled, "This is Gay Pride." And under it, there is a picture of a shirtless guy bent over at the waist on top of what looks like a slutty float in a pride parade for a gay bar, with another guy wearing what looks like a pride flag kind of as an apron, humping the guy bent over at the waist. And that picture is labeled, "This is bullshit. Spot the difference." So gay pride is marching in a suit and tie, very seriously, serious faces on, under a banner to smash gay oppression. And bullshit is hot boys humping each other in the pride parade. And I just want to make the point for the millionth time that these are not mutually exclusive endeavors, that you can be the righteous person at the barricades on Saturday with your fist in the air and the half-dressed dude on a float in a gay pride parade on Sunday with your ass in the air. Queer people shouldn't be pushing these false narratives that are really the hobby and domain and beloved anti-gay tropes of the straight people who don't like us very much, because they will talk about how guys in drag, and sometimes you even hear gay people say, oh, guys in drag, they ruin it for everybody. You should respectability politics. Make sure there are guys in suits walking down the street, or guys in suits better represent the gay community. No. The guy in the suit, Monday through Friday, who's gay, might just be the guy in drag on Saturday night or on Sunday at the Pride Parade. Same thing with leather, or the guys in Speedos or whatever, or the dykes on bikes with their tits out in the sunshine. That one of the things that we are pushing for and celebrating and demonstrating and modeling for them at the Pride Parade is sexual freedom, sexual release, sexual liberation. And a certain amount of public manifestation of that sexuality and that sexual freedom is appropriate and called for. And it is also political to have fun at the Pride Parade. Remember, one of the chief lies our political enemies tell about us is that we are miserable, that to be lesbian, gay, bi, or trans is to be lonely and unhappy and unloved and not connected to anything. And this lie is harder to tell in a world where so many LGBT people are out and obviously happy and content and loved and partnered and even married. Thanks, Obergefell. But it is a lie that is still told. And it is a lie that a lot of particularly young LGBT people, but not always only young LGBT people, believe until they see with their own eyes the evidence that that is not true. And one of the places where people often first really see in an overwhelming, transformative way that there is joy in queer life and that this is indeed a lie is at a Pride Parade. And so the guys in suits and the guys who are political and the guys and the women and the genderqueers and the non-binaries and the everybody's at the Pride Parade who are capable of being political, capable also of having fun, a lot of crossover there. They're all part of the Pride Parade. Now, some people are only political, only marchers. God bless them. Some people are only having fun. God bless them. They both play their roles. They both advance the cause for LGBT civil equality, some by demanding change and some by occupying space, some by simply being visible and being joyful. And we don't have to pit those two groups of people against each other. That's bullshit. All right, coming up on today's show, tons of your questions, and on the Magnum edition of the Savage Lovecast, which you can subscribe to at savagelovecast.com, we have author Moira Weigel here to talk with us about her new book, Labor of Love, The Invention of Dating. She also sticks around to give some dating advice to callers. Coming right up after this. Today's Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Me Undies. High quality, super comfortable, good looking undies. Get 20% off your first order when you go to meundies.com/savage. Today's episode is brought to you by FrameBridge. Send them your art, choose a frame, and they'll send you your art beautifully framed and ready to hang. Use the promo code SAVAGE for 15% off your first order. That's framebridge.com and enter SAVAGE. This episode of the Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Club W, the wine club that sends wine to your door. Get $20 off your first order of 4 bottles or more by going to clubw.com/savage.
Hi, Dan. I am a gay man living in a big city on the West Coast, and I'm in a predicament. I don't know what to do. I'm engaged. I live with my boyfriend, partner, or whatever you want to call him. We've been together for about 2 years. We plan on getting married next year. And my mom keeps on finding ways to get between us. My mother and I are very close, but she keeps on finding ways to try to sabotage our relationship. And after the Orlando massacre, which hit us very closely as gay people, everyone was hurt, but we took it very closely since we spent our lives working at gay bars, and it just hit us in a very different way. And so my partner keeps on posting things on his social media about his political stance, and he's very a lot more liberal than she is. She's become even more conservative, which normally wouldn't necessarily bother me. I kind of don't check on her Facebook. I don't really look at his. But she keeps on going onto his and just covering it with ridiculous demagoguery about, like, all sorts of crazy conservative stuff that I just don't agree with and I can't really defend. And I asked her just not go on his page and let bygones be bygones, have your own opinion, we'll have ours, and it's fine. But then yesterday I found she had this picture of basically a woman trying to kill a guy breaking into the bathroom. And I just lost everything. I was just so upset. And I sent her this whole email about how, you know, I can't keep defending her and I can't keep on letting her opinions and conservative point of view get in between me and my future husband. Like, at this point, he doesn't even want a wedding anymore. I would never allow someone else to do any of this to me or my boyfriend. I would stop talking to her a long time ago if she wasn't my mother. I'm her only friend, her only relative that still talks to her. I don't know what to do.
You're the only one of her relatives that still speaks to her. That is the most telling and pertinent detail in it. You dropped it right there at the end. Your mommy has a problem. Serious problems. Perhaps mental health problems. And you should be sensitive to that. But there's no excuse for not blocking your mother on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and wherever else she's lurking and reaching out and attempting to harass your future husband. She's really trying to drive a wedge between you and your fiancé. That's what we call them. You say, I don't know what to call them. We're engaged. Boyfriend, partner, what do I call them? You call them your fiancé. That's what you call them when you're engaged to. She's trying to drive a wedge between you so she can continue to have you and you only all to herself. Because you're all she's got. And that ain't your fault. That's her fault. So, time to let mom know, time to lower the boom, time to communicate to her clearly that if this keeps up, she's not going to separate you from your husband. She's going to separate herself from you. Because if she forces you to pick between her and her abusive, spammy, conservative horseshit and the man you love and intend to marry, you're going to pick him over her. And then she will have no one in her family that's willing to talk to her or put up with her bullshit. And in the meantime, and in the short run, block her. Perhaps you don't have to block her, but you should give your boyfriend, give your fiancé, your permission, your encouragement, importune him to block your mom on Facebook. They don't have to friend each other or follow each other. Block her, mute her. And if she has an issue with that, if she has a problem with that, you say, well, tough shit. And you don't engage. You don't even have to discuss it. Tough shit. Sorry. Didn't like the stuff you were putting on his page. Didn't want to see it anymore. You're out. You're gone. Period. The end. As for the wedding, I understand where your boyfriend is coming from. If I were in his shoes and my fiance's parent was constantly harassing and attacking me on my Facebook page, I wouldn't be looking forward to mother of the briding around with her at my wedding. Tell your boyfriend that you can have a nice long engagement and you can wait for her to drop fucking dead before you actually schedule the wedding. Or you can make sure when the wedding comes, her involvement, promise your boyfriend, her involvement is and will be minimal, and that there will be people at the wedding to run interference and keep her the fuck away from him. He doesn't have to like your mother or interact with your mother at all to be married to you. Make that clear to him.
Hi, Dan. I am a straight 28-year-old female from Colorado. The reason for my call is because I work with a man that makes me very uncomfortable. I have worked for this company for going on 12 years. It is a construction company, so of course I'm surrounded by men. One in particular is very forward in his advances. He makes it clear that he likes me and wants to do everything he can to get me to go on a date with him. In the past, the first time that it started happening, I will say I was 18, and he cornered me in a bathroom and tried to kiss me, and I smacked him and told him that his advances were not welcome because leading up to that, he had made me very uncomfortable, and that was the final straw. After that, he continues to force himself on me. And by that, I mean, whenever I go to visit the job site, he will ask everyone else to leave and make sure that it's only him and I in the room. And he's phrasing it so that he's, quote unquote, asking me a question, but then gets very close to me and whispers in my ear and tries to smell my hair and touches my hand. And I tell him that I am not interested. I don't want to date him. I don't have any desire to be with him. I tell him that I've got a husband. I'm not interested. And I don't, aside from putting him on blast with the boss and probably getting him fired, I'm not really sure how else to make it clear that I do not want him to treat me this way. But how do I make him stop?
You make him stop by getting him fired. This has been going on for 10 years. You say he first cornered you in a bathroom when you were 18 years old and you are now 28 and still with the same company with this monster who's been sexually harassing you for 18 years in front of witnesses. The people he's sending out of the room must know that there's a reason he's sending them out of the room so he can be alone with you. Document everything if you haven't already documented it, and go to your boss, go to whoever is above this guy, and let them know that you have been sexually harassed by this person for 10 years, and it ends now either with his termination or with the big fat fucking lawsuit you're going to hit him with so that you can retire at 29. It's not on you to come up with some magic incantation, some words strung together that make him stop doing what he's doing. It's on your boss, legally on your boss, to make sure that you have a safe workplace. And you do not have a safe workplace. You are being subjected to sexual harassment, to a kind of gender discrimination, a kind of gender terrorism at the hands of this employee. And it's been going on for a decade. No, it's not on you. You don't have to fix this. This company that you both work for, that company has to fix it. Not on you, on them and on him. Whether you're wearing a suit or sweats, you spend almost 24 hours a day in your underpants. But instead of making a statement like Superman's tights under his everyday clothes, your underwear is probably kind of boring. MeUndies is here to change that. Every pair of MeUndies is made from sustainably sourced modal, a fabric that's twice as soft as cotton. Once you try them on, you'll understand why they're called the world's most comfortable underwear. And if you don't love your first pair of MeUndies, they're free. No questions asked. MeUndies has dozens of styles and limited edition prints to help you make a statement with your underwear, no matter who gets to see them. Shipping is free in the US and Canada, and you can save up to $8 a pair with the MeUndies subscription plan. Get the subscription or a single pair and get 20% off your first order when you go to MeUndies.com/savage. That's MeUndies.com/savage for 20% off your first order.
Hi, Dan. Long-time listener. Thank you so much for everything you do. I really appreciate you. I have a potentially embarrassing question, given that I've been listening to you for so long. But what is mutual masturbation? Like, you just sit on the couch next to each other and jerk it? Like, how is that different from you both just, like, being on your phones? What do you do? How is that interactive? I'm sorry. Can you explain that, please?
You sound really angry about this concept, this mutual masturbation idea. And I'm wondering if you're projecting onto the concept of mutual masturbation some other anxiety or anger shit that would be more properly applied somewhere else. I don't understand what about mutual masturbation is making you so upset. And I don't understand if you can get to your phone and push the buttons to call me, and I welcome your calls and thank you very much for calling, that you couldn't get to your computer and push the buttons to enter mutual masturbation into the Google, where you would quickly get this definition: two people, either of the opposite sex or same sex, touching each other's penis/vagina for pleasure and or orgasm. Mutual masturbation means masturbating together. You don't take a piece of duct tape and put it through the middle of the couch and sit on either side and never touch each other. Mutual masturbation kind of means rolling around, jacking myself, jacking you, or fingering you, fingering me, and us stimulating and pleasuring each other and getting off. Masturbating in a pile together. And it doesn't have to be just two people. 3 or more people can engage in a satisfying act of mutual masturbation. And it can be great. It can be really great, especially when no one in the room is up for being penetrated or not wanting to do the work of giving a blowjob. It's called a blowjob, of course, not a blow vacation, because it requires a little effort. And if people just want to have sort of a low grade, low risk, low expenditure of energy and resources, intimate encounter where everybody gets off and you have all that skin to skin contact and tactile pleasure, and you have that intimacy, and you get all the natural bliss hormones that go flooding through your brain at the moment of climax, you can mutually masturbate. You can masturbate together. And that's what makes it not just masturbation, not just jerking it, because you're doing it together. But it is opt-in. You don't have to mutually masturbate with anyone. It's not required of you. If just the thought of mutual masturbation fills you with such incredulity and rage, masturbate alone. Remember when cameras weren't part of your phone? The way we take pictures has changed, but the way we frame them hasn't until now. Framebridge.com is the new easy way to frame the things you love. From the treasure trove of photos on your phone to posters and artwork, Framebridge makes it easy and affordable. Just go to framebridge.com and pick out the frame you want, or let their designers help you choose. You can even preview your item in any frame style. They'll send you a prepaid package to ship your item safely, or you can simply upload a picture on the Framebridge site or app. You can even upload a picture directly from Instagram. The expert team at Framebridge will custom frame your item in days, not weeks or months, and deliver your finished piece directly to your door, ready to hang. Framebridge offers a happiness guarantee. Their team gives each item personal care and attention, because meeting your expectations is as important as meeting their own. Instead of the hundreds you'd pay at a framing store, their prices start at $39 and all shipping is free. And right now, if you go to framebridge.com and use promo code SAVAGE, you'll save an additional 15% off your first order. Just go to framebridge.com, promo code SAVAGE.
Hi, Dan. I'm a 20-something living in the Bay Area, and my sister recently moved to a place nearby, and she is doing she's doing a year with AmeriCorps and getting paid nothing, and she wants to make some extra money. And she's decided that to do this, she wants to go on dates for money or become a sugar baby. She doesn't seem to consider this sex work, or she thinks she can do this without being expected to have sex. And she doesn't seem to really understand what she's getting herself into. She even started making a profile on Seeking Arrangements and was going to use her own real photos before my roommate and I talked her out of it. And I'm just really concerned for her safety, and I don't know if I can talk her out of it, but how to help her stay safe or help her understand what she's getting herself into. It seems like kind of an extreme option to me.
Sugar baby, sugar daddy arrangements typically involve money for sex. The rubber hits the road at a certain point, or the rubber catches the load at a certain point. And the guys that your sister will meet through a Seeking Arrangements kind of website, or a sugar baby, sugar daddy kind of website, are going to go in with the expectation that if they give her money, if they take her to dinner, if they take her shopping, that they're going to get laid. And what your sister should worry about is that guys can be terribly, terribly shitty. And guys who are laying out money can feel terribly, terribly entitled. And if they go in with one set of expectations, and not an unreasonable set of expectations around what they're buying with their money, which is not just FaceTime, they may lash out. It could go so far as physical intimidation, physical violence, coercion into performing sex acts, even rape. Short of those nightmares, it could just be that a guy gets angry and has your sister's photos and her contact information and the link to her page, and one may, in anger, decide to out your sister to potential employers or her current employer or to her family. So I would discourage your sister from dabbling in this world so long as she's deluding herself about the expectations these other guys have. If she must, she needs to make it abundantly clear that this is a time-only arrangement and not a nudge, nudge, wink, wink, you're just buying my time arrangement, but just time. No sex, no nudity, no nothing, just you spending money on me for the pleasures of my company, not the pleasures of my body. If she makes that clear, especially if you can get her to make that clear on her profile, you don't have to worry about her too much because she's probably not going to get any dates. I don't know where you guys are listening from today, but here in Seattle, where we are recording from today, it is hot as fuck. And the very best possible thing to do after work on a hot day is to crash on your front porch with a glass of cold white wine. With Club W, you can figure out the kinds of wine you like and stock up like the summer will never end. With Club W, you'll never have to worry about being wine-free again. Club W is a revolutionary new wine club that sends you wine directly to your door, saving you all those trips to the grocery store. Not only does Club W send you wine, they send you wine that you'll love drinking. Club W's easy 6-question quiz figures out your palate, so every bottle you receive is perfectly tailored to your tastes. Club W works directly with vineyards to cut out the middlemen, and that saves you money. Club W even offers a no-risk guarantee that you'll love what they send you. Right now, Club W is offering our listeners $20 off your first order when you go to clubw.com/savage, and it gets even better. Club W will actually pay for your shipping on orders of 4 bottles or more. So take something off your to-do list. Just go to clubw.com/savage to get $20 off your first order right now. That's clubw.com/savage.
Hi, Dan. I'm calling about a subject I know you really don't want to talk about, but I feel like I've got to say something. About this shooting, I ache for the people involved. I really do. I mean, this is my community, and I'm used to looking over my shoulder, but this just takes things to a whole new level. It just drives me crazy because just please don't come after my right to protect myself against this exact same kind of violence. When I was growing up, I read about Matthew Shepard, and I decided I was never going to let that be me, ever. And that's why I carry a gun. That's why I own guns, is because I don't want that to happen to me. I want to protect myself. And it just disgusts me that the response to this is going to make me less safe. It's going to make everybody less safe. And I want to see people in our community able to be safe and make their spaces safe. Because calling it a safe space doesn't do anything unless there's somebody there to enforce that. You know, and I enforce that wherever I go. Wherever space I'm in is as safe as I can make it for me. And I want to see people in our community, LGBT people, especially trans people, who are the victims of so much violence. And I worry for my trans friends so much. I want to see the members of that community that feel that they're mentally capable of that responsibility to be able to defend themselves effectively against multiple attackers.
I'm just calling to tell you you are so wrong.
Okay, well, I kind of expected that if you were to call me, that would be the case.
So it was nice talking to you, and goodbye. I had to call you back because you're being very, very. You must be willfully obtuse about this because you sound like a smart, intelligent, well-informed, caring person. That said,
hey, I would say the same about you. So we're even, I guess.
Okay, but no one in the wake of the shooting in Orlando is trying to repeal the Second Amendment or ban all gun ownership, private gun ownership, or prevent people from obtaining, where they're legal, concealed carry permits. They're talking about banning weapons of war, automatic weapons that make it possible for mass murderers to mass murder people more efficiently, not allowing people on the terrorism watch list or the no-fly list to stroll into a gun shop and buy an automatic weapon or any weapon, and closing the gun show loophole. How does that prevent you from carrying around a gun, which actually, and the statistics bear this out and all the research bear this out, makes you less safe, not more safe? How does the reaction to what happened in Orlando and Sandy Hook and San Bernardino, how do you conflate that with, or blow that up to, they're coming for all my guns, when that's just a lie. That's just a lie.
Okay, so from my perspective, the way that they define these things, the way that they define things like assault rifle, well, the problem is most of the time they don't define it. When they do, the category is broad enough that it catches a lot of things that are very useful for self-defense. Furthermore, like, there's this lack of understanding from a lot of people about what these rifles actually do. I mean, an AR-15 is safer for you to use in a confined space like an apartment than, say, a 12-gauge shotgun because it's not going to go through 7 walls.
An AR-15 is, you just... 49 people were just murdered in a confined space by somebody carrying that gun, and you're extolling its virtues in a confined space?
Yeah, because it doesn't overpenetrate nearly as badly as a lot of comparable weapons.
Okay, so we should send a thank you note to the killer at Orlando for being so courteous to use this type of weapon, because It didn't go through walls and kill people who weren't in the club, who may have been passing by.
The thing is that the difference between a weapon that is used to murder somebody and a weapon that is used to save somebody's life is purely in how it's used and who is using it, right? The same things that make it effective to protect yourself also make it effective at murdering people.
Who needs an automatic weapon, an AR-15, to defend themselves?
Okay, so first off, let's talk about automatic.
Oh my God, no. You know what? I actually can't hold my own in a debate with a gun fetishist. Again, the stats show that guns make people less safe, not more safe. That gun owners are 4.5 times greater odds of being victimized with a gun when they own a gun, and often with their own gun, and the odds of somebody being killed were 4.2 times greater when they had a gun on them. And the idea that we need the idea that we need to let people have automatic weapons to protect themselves from like a home invasion that involves 50 people, like where is this happening? Where somebody needs to protect themselves as if they're taking on the Taliban, as if they are storming the beaches at Normandy. That's where those kinds of guns are appropriate and necessary. Is that kind of a gun? Is that kind of an automatic weapon necessary in a home invasion if you're going to protect yourself with a gun?
Okay, so a couple of things. When you talk about automatic weapons, you're conflating things. The AR-15 is a semi-automatic, like virtually every other gun that you buy that's magazine fed. So you pull the trigger once, it fires one.
Ban all of them. Ban everything that's magazine fed. Ban them. Civilians don't need these guns for self-defense. Civilians do not need these weapons of war for self-defense.
When you do that, you are banning my semi-automatic concealed carry firearm, my semi-automatic 9mm handgun, because it fires in exactly the same way.
Good.
One pull of the trigger, one shot.
Good. I would like to ban your handgun. I think we should go back to muskets. If we're going to fetishize the Second Amendment.
Now you're coming for the gun that I use to defend myself against violence, which could very well be anti-gay violence.
Have you ever had to use it?
Not yet, no.
Do you know that you are likelier to be shot and killed, likelier to be a victim of violence because you have a gun on you?
I remember now. I remember what I was going to say. I was going to say, do you know those statistics about if you have a gun, you're more likely to die as a victim of gun violence? You know that those include suicide, which are 80% of gun-related deaths in our country.
So let's keep the guns coming.
No, because that statistic is biased because it includes people who kill themselves with their own gun, which is not necessarily a fault of the gun. It's a fault of someone who wants to kill themselves. So by saying that you're more likely to die from a gun, it's not because somebody is breaking into my home and stealing my gun and shooting me with it, which very, very rarely happens. It's because someone has killed themselves with their own gun, which is 80% of all gun deaths. When you inflate the statistics like that, it makes it sound worse. Do you also know that from statistics from the FBI and I believe it was the FBI and the Department of Justice, there's somewhere between 500,000 and several million defensive gun uses each year?
Perhaps we would have less cause for people to use their guns to defend themselves if we had fewer people out there with guns going after people, causing them to have to pull out their guns to defend themselves. If your stat is correct, which I'm not necessarily buying, but I'll take it as a point of argument and respond. Also, if guns make us safer, why are we so fucking unsafe in this country? We have more guns than any other Western industrialized world in private hands, circulating constantly. If more guns made us more safe, we should be fucking pretty goddamn safe around here, and we are not safe. Guns do not make us as individuals or us as a society safer, and the proof is in the fucking pudding. The proof is in the murder rate, the homicide rate, the shooting rate, the appalling number of gun deaths in this country every year. You gun fondlers, you don't have a leg to stand on. I get that you like your guns. I get that you want to own your guns. I get that guns give you a charge. I get that you want to feel safe. I get it. But you are lying to yourself, and all of us are paying the price for the delusions of gun owners and for the misinterpretation of the Second Amendment by the Supreme Court. And it's a price that a lot of us just aren't willing to pay anymore. The blood is too deep, too thick on the ground to continue to accommodate your fantasies about the efficacy of guns or the safety that you believe erroneously they confer upon you and others. When look around, they don't make you safer. They don't make us safer.
See, Dan, this is why I was hoping you would call me back. And why I called you is because I believe that you have these opinions because of evidence that you've read, and you're a well-reasoned person who means well. Like, I feel like you're a rational person, which is why I'm hoping I can convince you, because the statistics that I read indicate the opposite. There's like an entire book where this guy goes through and he compares crime rates before and after concealed carry legislation is passed. And in every case, crime either goes down or stays essentially the same. It does not increase when you pass permissive concealed carry laws.
There's never been one mass shooting stopped by an armed concealed carry, gun fondling passerby or person in the room, ever.
That's actually false, Dan. That's happened before. Appalachian School of Law.
Every time a gun is used in self-defense in the home, there are 7 assaults or murders, 11 suicide attempts, and 4 accidents involving guns in or around the home. Seems like it's not worth it.
Because my statistics are showing...
Wait, and let's back all the way the fuck up. The gun restrictions that people are talking about, terror list, no-fly list, banning weapons of war, and maybe it's like pornography, we know them when we see them. We know when we're mopping up the blood when a weapon of war has been used. So let's figure out how we can define which ones are weapons of war and ban them, and maybe you can keep your precious gun. Nobody's talking about what I would like to see people talking about, what I would advocate, but it's not on the table, repealing the fucking Second Amendment and banning guns, period, which is what I would favor, but no one's floating that. So you're hand-wringy concerns about people coming for your guns. The sex advice podcast faggot community can't come for your guns. No one is under any illusion that we're coming for guns. What I do see, though, and there's an op-ed in the New York Times today making this bullshit argument, that any gun restrictions, any new laws in the wake of San Bernardino, Sandy Hook, and now Orlando is taking our guns. It's not. It's taking AR-15s out of the hands of psychos. I've always wanted to ask a gun person this. This is what I don't understand about gun people. I know somebody has a gun and I think, dangerous lunatic. That's what first comes to my mind. Not patriot, not somebody I want around in a crisis, not somebody I feel comfortable with my kid playing at his house. I think fucking nut. I have to think fucking nut. I have to default to thinking fucking nut. And what I don't understand about gun people who want to be regarded as heroic patriots, concerned for everybody's safety, concerned for freedom and the Constitution, is if the bar was set really high for gun ownership, you had to take safety classes, you had to pass mental health exams, you had to be professionally trained and licensed and have that license renewed, then if I knew you had a gun, I would think, there's a smart, trustworthy person who knows what he's doing. There's somebody I want around in an emergency. Right now, with guns being given out in cereal boxes in this country, I think somebody with a gun, as likely a lunatic or not, and I have to default to presuming a lunatic because giving somebody with a gun the benefit of the doubt and thinking they're maybe not a lunatic could get me or my family or my kid killed. So why don't gun owners, why don't people who really love guns want guns to symbolize for the rest of us who don't own guns that somebody is a quality person with a lot of training and is not crazy because they couldn't have the gun if they hadn't proved all of those things?
Because this disenfranchises people who can't afford the amount of money it takes to do that stuff. The states with really restrictive concealed carry permits, it costs upwards of $1,000 to get them, if you can get them, because you can be arbitrarily denied for any reason without having any proof on it. I have friends of mine who I would like to see carry and have expressed interest, but because guns are expensive, they're having a hard enough time with that. And that's $300 to $500 for a carry gun. I can't expect them to drop $1,200 in qualifications.
Maybe you should start a charity to buy guns for the impoverished.
And the people who are poor are more likely to live in areas with high crime, and they're more likely to need them for self-defense, Dan. When I see someone with a gun, I think that someone has the potential to be dangerous in the same way that someone who's 6'5" and 250 pounds that can bench press a truck is dangerous. Doesn't mean he's a bad guy, just means he has the capability to do harm. Whether or not he chooses to do harm is another thing. If he's on my side, I feel better knowing he's there because he's my, 6'5", 250 pound friend.
You're not really answering my question. I get the financial concern, and maybe we can start a charity. We can get all the pop stars who haven't been murdered after their concerts by deranged fans to sing a song to help raise money to buy guns and help pay for training and licensing for the impoverished. But right now, for the vast majority of us who are not gun owners, we hear gun owner and we think fucking nut. We don't think well-trained, smart, good to have around in a crisis. We think probably this person is the crisis that we don't want to have around. And I'm sorry, that's just
that's because you probably don't know a lot of people who own guns.
My dad's a cop, my brother's a cop, my uncles are cops. I grew up in a house with guns.
And you think that they're dangerous?
No, but I know them
You
personally.
think that all these people are psychopaths?
I know them personally. I appreciate your right-wing arguing style. I know them personally.
Out of your sample size of like 5 people you know who own guns, they're decent people that you know personally. So why is it that someone you don't know who owns a gun is automatically a psychopath?
I think we're going to have to end it there. You're 100% wrong, and I hope you lose this political debate. And I hope one day they do come for your guns. And I hope one day we live in a world without any guns at all.
Can I refer you to the Pink Pistols at least? There's a lot of folks there who would love to have this conversation with you.
The Pink Pistols have an op-ed in the New York Times on the day we're speaking that is a package of lies. The Pink Pistols, the idiot from the Pink Pistols who wrote the op-ed in the New York Times suggests that it would have been great if there'd only been a lot more people in that bar with guns so that they could have started firing blindly into the dark at each other to help the murderer up his body count, which would have been the only goal. Donald Trump said that in the days after Orlando, that there needed to be other people there with guns. The NRA thinks that it's a bad idea. Wayne LaFucking-Pierre got on TV and said that they do not support concealed carry in bars. They don't think people should have guns where they're drinking. Hello, NRA, people drink in their homes. Maybe we shouldn't let them have guns there either.
Or maybe you should make it so people can't carry guns when they're drinking, regardless of where they're at.
Your position is to the right of the NRA. The Pink Pistols, that gay gun fondling organization, their position is to the right of the NR-fucking-A. I didn't know there was a right to the NR-fucking-A on guns, but the queer gun owners and queer gun humpers are there, and I want nothing to do with them. We have to go. It was a pleasure talking with you. I like arguing with people, but we have to go. And one more time, you're wrong.
Okay, well, thanks for calling, Dan. It was. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about this.
Bye.
Hi, Dan. I'm calling about conspiracy theories. With the awful tragedy in Orlando recently, we all know the conspiracy theorists are going to come out. Well, somebody that's very, very close to me has just revealed themselves as someone that believes that 9/11 and Sandy Hook were conspiracies. What do you do in that situation? How do you engage with a person like this? I, put up the boundary and say, we're not going to talk about this. Like, I know you're a better person than this. Is this revealing something in their true character? What do you do? I'm at a loss.
What I would do in a situation like that, I would back slowly out of the room and never speak to that person ever again, because I don't have a lot of room in my life for irrational people and people who believe in conspiracy theories and people who are that detached from reality. They're not going to be good and reliable friends. The other option is the one you identified, which is just to say to that person, yeah, we're not talking about that. Shut up and change the subject, or I'm going to take Dan Savage's advice and back slowly out of the room and never see you again.
Hey, Dan. Most guys I've been with, I'm a top, generally douche and clean out before anal. But recently I've heard of a sort of a trend with guys just sort of winging it or saying that they're just kind of good to go for no reason, as in they don't do any sort of special work. And I was wondering if that's even possible. I mean, what amount of fiber would a guy have to be taking in for there to be no Santorum at all? I've never seen it. I can't imagine it. I've never experienced it myself. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on this seemingly new trend.
There are a lot of people out there who don't douche before anal sex, not because they're interested in whipping up a hot steaming pile of Santorum or getting shit all over a dick, but because in their experience, they don't really need to. There are folks out there who are good to go, who know when they're empty, who perhaps get a lot of fiber in their diet, and have never had or rarely had a problem with fecal matter during anal intercourse. Know thyself, as someone said about something, also applies to anal. If you know yourself well enough, if you have a decent diet, it might not be a problem. You may not need to douche. Some people douche just for the peace of mind so that they can throw themselves into the anal and not have to worry about it. But there are folks out there who douche when they feel it's necessary, or douche rarely, or douche not at all. And they aren't all scat queens. Despite the hype, despite our fear of the butt, your rear end isn't a chocolate frozen yogurt dispenser in the back of a Tasty Freeze in Lubbock, Texas during a brownout. It's not constantly leaking brown sort of viscous fluid. You can stick your finger in your butt and come out relatively clean most of the time, because if you have solid compact turds and you're regular, after you take that constitutional, you're empty and you're gonna be goodish to go. If you're not regular, you don't get a lot of fiber, yeah, I would err on the side of douching if I were you. But don't look at people who don't douche and assume that they are not concerned with preventing Santorum or shitting all over their partners, because that ain't necessarily so.
Hey, Dan. So I'm a community college teacher on the West Coast, and I teach a human sexuality class, and use your podcast, regularly play some of the calls to talk about some issues, and it's great, and we talk about GGG and all that type of stuff. And today in class we were talking about fetishes and kinks and BDSM and all that stuff. And so I'm here with my class, and they have a question here for you that they would like you to answer, or maybe an expert that you bring on to answer. And that question is, what is the best way to approach talking about your partner about introducing a fetish into the relationship? How do you get your completely vanilla partner to spice things up without freaking them out?
Hi, class. Nice to get a call from you. Thank you for inviting me to sit in today. Let's zoom out for a second. So let's say you're in a vanilla relationship and you're having vanilla sex with your vanilla partner, and that's all you've ever had because you haven't rolled out your kinks. Your partner, who you presume to be vanilla, is presuming the same thing about you, and that's the problem. Like, oh, they think I'm vanilla, so I have to tell them about my kinks, and then I'm not going to be vanilla anymore. But why are you assuming that they're vanilla or completely vanilla when you, having presented yourself as vanilla, are not yourself completely vanilla? You could roll out your kinks, and the person that you think or assume or to be completely vanilla, because that's the only way you guys have ever interacted sexually, might roll their kinks out in response. Or you could win the kink lottery and roll out your kinks and discover that they share them. And I know people that has happened to. They laid their kink cards on the table, and the person across the table smiled and laid the identical cards down themselves. Yahtzee, when that happens, that is a small miracle. It's a universe mitzvah. The universe doing you a good. Now, rolling out your kinks to somebody who hasn't just presented vanilla but is actually vanilla, don't reveal your kinks like you're sharing your cancer diagnosis. You don't go in and say, oh, I have kink leukemia. You have to roll your kinks out like they're Christmas presents on Christmas morning. Not, if you're with me, these are the things you're going to have to do. But if you're with me, these are the fun things we're going to get to do, because these are things that I enjoy. And what are the things that you enjoy? That's an important part of laying your kink cards on the table, is inviting them to lay theirs on the table as well, to share with you their fantasies or fetishes or secret desires at the same time. Now let's say that you've laid your kink cards down on the table and they got no kink cards of their own. They are just 100% vanilla. How do you get them to go there with you? Well, you continue to demonstrate to them that vanilla sex is something that you are good at and that you enjoy, and you're going to continue to meet their needs, and you take baby steps towards yours. If you are interested in bondage, you roll that out a little at a time. You don't go for like the crazy stuff you've seen on Tumblr. You go for the silk ties and bed restraints from the sex shop that are pretty mild and not too terribly threatening. You have to recognize, though, that there are some kinks that people aren't going to be able to do because they're going to shock them or traumatize them, or it's a fetish too far. Some kinks are so extreme that you really can't expect an indulgent vanilla partner to go there necessarily. And you have to use your best judgment where that's concerned. If you want to piss in someone's mouth, that's a high bar to set. That is perhaps a fetish too far. Somebody isn't going to lose their GGG card if they can't go there for you. But if all you want is to lick their feet because you're a foot fetishist, that's something that I think kinky people of a certain sort of middling stripe have a right to expect, as a matter of course, that kind of indulgence. Because we should be good giving and game for our partners. And not just vanilla people in kink discordant relationships being GGG for their kinky partners, but also, again, kinky people being GGG for their vanilla partners. I've heard from too many people who had partners who rolled out a diaper fetish or a BDSM fetish, who then, after having pretty much vanilla standard sex that they both enjoyed, stopped wanting to have vanilla sex at all. And so the vanilla partner was constantly having to meet the kink need, constantly having to perform, constantly having to do this thing that, as much as they enjoyed doing it for their partner, there wasn't a lot of independent pleasure in it for them. And you just can't do that. If your kinks are being indulged, be careful, be GGG for your vanilla partner and indulge them in the kind of vanilla sex that created your sexual bond and that sexual intimacy that made you feel comfortable enough to reveal your kinks to them in the first place. Bust that out on the regular as well. And now, before I dismiss class today, an assignment, some extra reading for everyone. I want you to go find The Birds and the Bees, an essay about sexuality by Gore Vidal. It's in his collection of essays, United States. There are problems with it, but there's also tremendous insight in it, and I think you guys should go read it and have a discussion. Birds and the Bees, Gore Vidal essay. Enjoy.
Hey, Dan. This is a response to episode 504 and the guy who is moving out of his evangelical parents' house but doesn't want to come out to them. I completely agree with what you said, that when he comes out, he needs to make his parents fear his rejection instead of fearing theirs. This was hard for me to grasp, too, but it became easier once I took the key step and moved out. Once I moved out and started taking care of myself, I got an apartment, a job, friends who were out and supportive. I wasn't dependent on my parents anymore for room and board. I could eventually come out to them on my own terms from a place of strength as a moderately successful adult instead of a kid at home. So yes, for all the reasons you mentioned and more, he should come out to his parents. But I would suggest establishing your roots a little first in your new life. And odds are the task will become more palatable over time. I have a good relationship with my parents now, but I was better able to stand my ground when I had my own ground to stand on.
Hi, Dan. I'm calling in response to episode 504, the gay man that's terrified of coming out to his parents. I had to give the exact same advice that you gave me a few years ago when I called for advice to come out to my very conservative Catholic dad. You told me to tell him that I love you too much to continue to lie to you. I told my dad that, and I confessed that I am a gay man. And he was very pissed at first, but he called me after a couple of days and said, "You are my son, and I love you no matter what." I can't say that this is how this guy's parents will react, but I can say that completely coming out of the closet was the absolute best decision that I have ever made in my life. I suggested this guy does the same, and I wish him the absolute best.
Hey, Dan, I got a comment for the closeted man in episode 504. I think that, yes, it's possible that his parents will never come around, but if they do eventually come around, they are going to go back to their evangelical church and tell everyone they know that their son is gay and they accept him fully. And that's what we need more of in the society, is more people coming out, more parents coming around and loving them and showing people that it's okay to be out and live as who you are.
And we're going to leave it there. 206-302-2064 is the what? It's the number. That's what, 206-302-2064. Give us a call there to leave a question or comment for a future show. Follow me on Twitter at Fake Dan Savage. Follow Moira Weigel on Twitter at Moira Weigel. That's Weigel. Savage Lovecast is produced every week by Nancy Hartunian and me and the tech savvy at-risk youth and Nancy. We will all be back at you next week with another installment of Savage Lovecast. Thanks for that.